chapters 5 and 6. So last week we had finished up chapter 6. I gave you the worksheet so you guys turned it in last week. I did get that for you. If you want to pick it up on your way out today, I can get that back to you. But I put it in the grade book as well. The exam, so there's the practice test. So if you haven't had a chance to look at that, hopefully you did over the weekend, at least browse it. The solutions are also up as well. So if you want to take a look at that. And then besides the practice tests, you may just want to go back and review the quizzes just to check out some of those answers. And then today, just like last time, I'll just answer any questions you have or go over any examples that you might want to take a look at, particularly from like the practice tests or from any of the practice I've handed out or quizzes or anything like that. So in general, we did all the stuff with decimals and square roots, solving equations with those, calculating means and medians, unit prices and some probabilities. Then we got into ratios and rates, percentages and percent problems, and that's pretty much what we covered. This is a little bit longer than probably a regular exam would be, just for extra practice. But anyways, so were there any things that you saw in here that you want to take a look at?
Could you go over number 8?
Sure. Okay. So number 8 is an application of square roots. So there's a function that they will use in accident evaluations, and it tries to estimate the speed of vehicles based on skid marks that they leave when they're braking. And the way that they do that is they take the distance or the length of the skid marks, and then they plug it into this equation, root 24D, and that's how they can estimate the speed the car would have been going in miles per hour. So in this case, they did one, and it was 175 feet. So that's your D, right? So that's your distance, or your skid marks. So then you would plug that into the equation, and so you would just do, so it'd be like, so it's square root 24D, make that a little thinner there. So it'd be the square root of 24 times 175. So first you would do 24 times 175, which I have no idea what that comes out to be. What does that come out to be? 4,200? Okay. And then you would turn around and you would take the square root of that. So whatever that comes out to, what does that come out to be? Square root of 4,200? 64.8? Yeah? Is that it? Well, it's got a bunch of decimals, right? 64 point what? 807. Is there a 0 after the 8? Is that what it is? Yeah, dot, yeah. I think I rounded it. I asked you to round to the tenths, right? Is that true? Yeah. So that's why you went with this. Yeah. So it'd be 64.8 miles per hour. All right. And that's for number 8 on the practice test. Yeah, sure. What else? Other things that you want to take a look at? Sure. Okay. So in number 15, this is going back on percentages, and I asked you percentage problems in a couple different ways. So in this case, I actually give you his commission, and I tell you how expensive the vehicle was. What I want you to do is calculate the rate of commission. And so how do you turn a commission and a total back into a percentage? It's a division problem, yeah. So it's 675 on 4,500. So it's what was this, 15 you said? It's 675 commission on a $4,500 car. Now, what we're trying to answer is we're trying to figure out, 675 is what percent of 4,500? That's really the question, right? Because that was a percentage calculated on the total. You could turn that into equation. So 675 is what percent of 4,500, or you can just remember that when you're dealing with like tax or commission, typically you can just take the smaller value and divide it by the bigger value. That's going to get you your percentage. And then the equation tells you to do the same thing, divide by 4,500. So your answer is going to be whatever 675 divided by 4,500 is. You just take that small value, divide it by the big value. What do you get if you do that? Was that 0.15?
Yeah.
So then the answer is what?
15.
Yeah, because that's decimal form. So you always have to convert back into percentage form. So that'd be a 15% commission rate, looks like.
If we left it, like, not that we would, but if we left it in decimal form, is that gonna be completely wrong, or would you give us?
If I asked for a percentage, I'd like it. It wouldn't be completely wrong. I mean, I could see that you did the work right. So, I mean, I might just be like 1 point off or something, not a 5-point problem. So, yeah. All right. Questions on that one? Yeah. So if we're talking commission, we're talking tax. If I give you the dollar amounts, it's going to be a division problem to get you back to percentages. Make sure though that it's going to be the smaller one divided by the bigger one, and then you have to convert back. So. Because if you convert the other way, if you divide the other way, it'll give you an answer that sounds reasonable, but it's not. So, all right. What else? Okay. Oh, yeah, so simple interest. That was one of the applications that we covered, so on number 17. Simple interest earned after 7 years on $1,200, invested at a particular rate. So I'll put down the formula on the exam if I end up using it. If you need it, and the formula is I equals P R T, right? And the idea is that if you want to figure out the interest, you take P is your principal, and then R is your rate as a percentage, and then T is how long you're investing. So, and that's the formula you'll use. So then, for this particular problem, what did it say it was? I don't have it in front of me. What was it? 7, 12. So the 12,000, that's the principal, right? 7 years, that's your time, and your rate's 8.5%. So we'll go back here to my thing here. So it's like, so then the interest, your principal was the 12,000. Your rate was the 8.5%. It always goes in decimal form. And then your time was the years, which would be 7. So then you just multiply those together. And I don't know what it comes out to be, but we can figure it out. What's that? 7140?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was number, what was it, 17 you said? Yeah, that was number 17 on the practice test. So. Okay. Questions on that one? All right, it's really just an application of the formula, but if I give you a problem in here, I'll include the formula on the test so that you'll have it. I could give you other information. I don't have to give you PR and T. I could give you some other information. I think that's what 18 is. So like if you look at 18, I gave you the interest and the principal and the time, but what's missing is the rate. So you would just have to use the formula. You're just going to have to solve it a little bit differently, right? So like the interest, so here, you know, this is like this is the, oh, it's here, yeah. So in this case, this is your interest, 28.98. This is your principal, and this is your time. But the rate is what you don't know. I need to make that smaller. So, yeah. Do you want to solve that? You want me to finish that one?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So it was 28.98 on 23. So then when we go back to our formula, okay, I equals PRT. Okay. So in that case, I know the interest. So it was 28.98, right? So that goes on the left-hand side of the equation. The principal was it 23,000? 23,000. The rate, we don't know. The time was what? What was it? 3 years? 3. Yeah. So how do you solve that problem? Divide by what? Yeah, you could divide twice, or what I would probably do is I would just multiply first. So you'll get 28.98. 23,000 times 3 is what? 69,000 times R. Then you can divide the 69,000 on both sides. So then your answer is going to be whatever 2898 divided by 69,000 comes out to be. And what does that come out to be? What was it? 0.042. Yeah, so what's the answer then? Yeah, that's the decimal form. So it's 4.2%. So if you're given principal rate and time, like in number 17, it's just all multiplication. But if you're missing one of these three and you have the interest, then you're going to end up having to divide because to get the R or the T or the P by itself. So that was 18. So, all right. Yeah. Sure. All right. Let's go back. You said 16? Oh, yeah. So this was, this is like the percent change problem. And so it's like you get the new value and you have an old value, right? So like the Blu-ray player here, this is like the new value, $49.99. And this is the old value, where it used to be was $79.99. And I'm asking you for the percent discount. And so if I give you a new value and an old value, this is a percent change problem. And we talked a little bit about this on Wednesday on the worksheet. So if you're trying to calculate percent change, this was 16, right? So if you're trying to do a percent change, you just want to take the new value minus the old value. That gets you like the actual change, like the dollar amount. Then you want to divide by where it started. So it's always like the new minus the old divided by the old. So in this case, the new price was $49.99, and it was originally what, 89? Was it 89 or 79.99? What was it? $79.99. Okay, but then we're going to divide by the price that it started at. So the percentages are always taken out of the original value. Okay, and so the discount was what, $30, and it's out of $39.99. So it's going to be, or I'm sorry, $79.99. So it's 30 divided by $79.99. And what does that come out to be? Yeah, so that's 0.37504 ... Now, what did I ask you to do on the test? So on the practice test, I asked you to round to what? The nearest tenth of a percent. So this is where you have to be careful, because if you round to the nearest tenth right now, you're rounding too much, because this isn't in percentage form yet, right? So this is in decimal form. So first, we need to go back to percentage form. So this is 37.504 ... percentage. Now we round to the tenths. And so it would be 37.5% would be the solution for that one. So just be careful when you're rounding to like a decimal of a percentage that you go to percentage first. Because if you just rounded to the nearest tenth here, this would become 0.4. And then when you converted it back, you would say that it was like 40%. If you, well, so I said, see, this is decimal form, not percentage form. I wanted the nearest tenth of a percent, so you need to put it in percentage form first, because this is the tenth of the percent, even though it's actually in the thousandth spot in the decimal form. That's actually the tenth of the percent. If you rounded here, you would round too much. You would tell me it was 40%, but it's not. All right. Sure. So anyways, this is the key. So you might want to write that one down. Kind of remember that for percent change. All right. Let's go. You said which one? 21. Okay. Oh yeah, so then we got into proportional equations, applications of proportional equations. So this one's a road trip. 300 miles in 5 hours. How much longer does she need to drive to complete her trip, which is a total of 550 miles? This is where you can take two approaches. If you want to get directly to the answer, the easiest way to do this is just to figure out first how many miles she has left. right? So if she's trying to cover 550 miles and she's already covered 300, then how many miles does she have left? Yeah, 250 remaining, right? Okay. Then you can set up the proportional equation. So you say, okay, so she's covered 300 miles in 5 hours, right? So we're talking miles over hours. She's covered 300 miles in 5 hours. She needs to cover 250 miles to finish her trip, but we don't know how long it's going to take. And then it's cross multiplication. Excuse me. So this will become 300x, and then 5 times 250, that's, I think, 1250. And then our last step would be divide by 300. So what does that come out to be? 4 point something something? It's like 166 dot dot dot. I said round to the nearest tenth of an hour. So that'd be 4.2. All right. What else? Other ones you want to see? Mm-hmm. So 19, this is just another application of the interest formula, but now I've given you other stuff and I'm asking you to solve. So this one I give you. – 6 is your time, 5.5% is your rate, and then this is your interest. In this case, what we're missing is P. Okay, so it's what? 594, 6. So if we go, maybe clear this out. So it was, the interest was 594, the time was 6 years, and the rate was 5.5%. So we're just going to plug that into our formula here. So 594 is over here. The principal we don't know, but what we do know is the rate, 0.055, and we know the time, which was 6. And again, here what you would do, it's kind of like the last one, is you'd multiply first. And so you get whatever 0.055 times 6 is, 0.33. And then you divide by that to solve for the answer. So the principal is going to be, 594 divided by 0.033, or I'm sorry, divided by 0.33. What does that come out to be? It's like 1,800. So it's really just, it's plugging in the values into the equation where they belong and then going from there to solve it for the missing variable. All right. Yeah, so 20, it's similar to 21 in the sense that it's a proportional equation. So we have some amount of stuff done in a certain amount of time. So we've got hours, 3.5 hours. They delivered flyers to 140, and they signed up for a 5-hour shift. So then we're looking for how many flyers would they do in the total. So then we'd set up a proportional equation. So in the initial equation, so in 3.5 hours, they did 140 flyers, right? So that's hours over flyers. And then you just set that equal to, okay, well, what do we know? We know that their total shift time is 5 hours, so 5 goes on top because hours went on top in the first fraction. What we don't know is how many flyers they're going to hand out in those 5 hours. And then once you set up the proportional equation, that's the hard part, is getting it set up. Then it's just cross-multiplying and solving. So then it would be 3.5x, and then 140 times 5, I think, is 700. So then if you divide both sides by 3.5, what do you get? 200. So in 5 hours, you expect they to hand out about 200 flyers. So What else? Lots of percent stuff. Let's see, which one was that? Yeah, so if you're going to actually, so in 15, I gave you the dollar amounts, like the commission and the price. So it was a division problem. In this case, I gave you the cost and the tax rate. So how do you calculate tax on an item if you know the value and the percentage? Yeah, so the tax is you just take the price times the percentage, but like you mentioned, it's got to be in its decimal form, right? So it'd just be 577 times 0.086, and that would get you the tax, which would be 49.62. You'd round to the nearest cent because that's what we work in. And then, so that would be the tax. So then what would the total be? The total would be the sum of those things. So you'd take that tax and you'd add it back onto the cost, and it would be 626.62 for the total. Yep. What else? So this one is actually like the Blu-ray player one. It's a percent change problem, except for in this case, he's gone up. In the Blu-ray example, it went down, but in this case, he's gone up. So if you use the formula I was showing you before, right, I said you always take the new minus the old and divide it by the old. And so he's making 1976 now. He was making 19, and we always divide by where it started. So essentially, what did he do? He got a 76 cents raise on $19 an hour. And so you would take that 76-cent raise and divide by 19, and you'll get what? 0.04, which would be a 4% raise. So the key to those ones is if you're doing a percent discount or a percent increase, you always divide by where it started, because it was based off the original $19 an hour. All right.
Will you be able to do corrections again this time?
I don't know. Usually I just look to see how the scores look.
No pressure.
Yeah, I don't know. I just usually wait and see. 7? Yeah, these ones I would probably, typically speaking, if you're working with mixed numbers, it's always easiest to do what? Right? Put them in impropers. So this would be 4 times 1 is 4 plus 3, so this would be the same as 7/4 to 8 times 2 is 16 plus 5 is 21/8. And then you turn that into a fraction, but it becomes a complex fraction, right? Because when you're turning ratios into fractions, you're just putting the first number over the second. But with fractions, it turns it into a complex fraction. But how do we handle complex fractions? We just rewrite them as division problems, which we rewrite those as multiplication problems. And then you just simplify. So like 8 and 4 are both divisible by 4, and 7 and 21 are both divisible by 7. And so it looks like all that's going to be left is 2 to 3.
You could also wait to simplify.
Yeah, right. You could also just multiply here, because 8 times 7 is 56, and 4 times 21 is, 84? And then you can work your way back to 2/3 by simplifying. You gotta divide out the 2's.
That just takes longer.
Right. That's all. Just takes longer. But you'd get there. All right. Anything else y'all want to take a look at?
7, 8.
Which one?
7, 8. Just put that as 21.
Exactly. If you're just doing a ratio, it's just you're putting it as a fraction, and then you're reducing. So like these are divisible both by 2, so I'd reduce that to like 10 over 16, which is still divisible by 2, so I would reduce that to 5 over 8. You know, yeah.
Do 1A.
What's that?
1A.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, it's really just putting numbers over each other and then simplifying. Fractions just make it a little more complicated. What about 1A? Can you do 1A? Oh, you said A, not C. I don't know what I'm thinking. Yes, 1A. If you're going to tackle something like 1A, what should we do first? Yeah, you always want to do parentheses, right? So 13. You do 13.44 minus 9.6, and that ends up being 3.84. How do you take a decimal and multiply it by a fraction? Yeah, there's 2 ways you can do it. One way is you could turn that fraction into a decimal. So you can pull out your calculator and go 3/4. And what is 3/4? Comes out to 0.75 times 3.84. So that's one way to handle that. And then that would get you, what? 2.88? 2.88 would be the answer. Is there another way to do that? Anytime you're trying to multiply a number times a fraction, you just multiply by the numerator and divide by the denominator. So you could just do 3 times 3.84 and then divide by 4. So it's just 3, because then 3 times 3.84 is 11.52, and then you divide by the 4, and then you get the exact same answer. So you can do it either way.
Is that because it's like you're putting 3.4 over 1?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. It is because multiplication and division, they're actually on the same order of operations, so it doesn't actually matter which one you do first. Like here we divided first and then multiplied by 3.84. Here we just multiplied by 3.84 first and then divided by 4. So we did the same 2 operations, just in opposite order. It doesn't actually matter though. But yeah, it's because 3.84, it's kind of like putting it over 1. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What about C? Is C possible? C's not possible, right? Right? You can't have a negative number under the root. Right? So that's not possible. So C, this would be one of those that we would consider not a real number. Because you can't take roots in negative numbers. Not possible. The one above it's fine though, because you can take the root of 25, you can take the root of 225, and then you can add them up. No problem there. So, all right.
For 2B, you're just solving. You don't need to change those decimals.
No. If you're dealing with decimals, yeah, it's just the one thing I would do is I would change anytime I see minus or minus, I would rewrite that as plus. You know, and then how would you solve that equation? You would just take away the 19.8 from both sides. So you do negative 13.65 minus. So you got a negative number, you're going more negative. You're actually adding in the negative direction. And that's going to take you out to what? Like, gosh, I don't even know what those add up to be. What is it? 33.45, and it's negative. Yeah, for that one. What else?
How do you find the mean for number 4?
Yeah, so the difference between mean and median is if you want to go to mean, you don't have to worry about ordering them or anything. What do? You just add up all those numbers. And then what do? You just divide by however many there are. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there's 11 observations there. So you're just going to add them all up and divide by 11. If you want to do the median, what do you got to do? That's when you got to actually rearrange them. So sorry, this would be the mean. If you want to do I don't know what it comes out to be though. It's in my solution. Anybody got that on them by chance? What does that have to be?
156.1, I think. I'm not sure.
The mean seems too high.
Is that correct?
I have it in my solution, so I just didn't download those. What number was that?
I don't think you put it in your solution.
Yeah, it's not on there.
Yeah, it's right
You
here.
put your median, but you didn't put your mean, because I printed it.
Yeah, it's right here, isn't it? 4A? Mean?
Oh, I have a different version.
Of the solutions?
Oh, wait, above it, never mind.
Yeah. It's in the solutions right here.
The next
So
one above it.
those ones should add up to 197.
Give me 197.
What's that? You should add up all these observations. You should add up all these, right? Those should add up to 197, and then you divide by 11. That's how you get the mean. There you go. And then I ordered them as well. So then there's the median calculation below it. Right? So for median calculation, you just line them up, least to greatest. And then you just pick the middle number. So. Okay. Yeah, I separated them for some reason, but I shouldn't have. All right. Anything else?
2C.
Yeah, which one was that? Yeah, C is just a cross multiplying problem. So this one is just the proportional equations already set up for you. So you just cross multiply and you get, so 7 times 84 is like 588, I think. Is that true? Somebody should check that for me.
Yeah, that's correct.
588. And then you divide both sides by -6 to get A. So what is 588 divided by 6? It's like 98. But a positive divided by a negative is? Yeah, you got to make sure you don't forget your sign there. So this would be, this was a C there on that one. So, all right. Any other?
You do number six.
Sure. So for probabilities are always just fractions. So my question is, what's the probability you get red? So to do a probability, the first thing we have to do is we have to figure out how many total there are. So you just add them up, and that'll give you your total. So that's going to be, 36 total? And then the probability of red, well, there are 6 red out of 36. So that's the answer, but you probably should reduce it if you can, because those are both divisible by 6. So it's, 6 out of 36 or 1 in 6 would be your chances. Only red. So it's always just like however many there are of that, what you're looking for, divided by the total. That's your probability of picking something. All right. Any other?
7D.
So again, it's just going to be, it's just we're just going to write it as a fraction, right? It's just going to be 180 to 16. You just want to reduce it. It's definitely reducible by at least what? Yeah, at least 2 because they're even. So that would be like 90 over 8. But that's reducible by 2 again because that would be 45 to 4. And I think that's it. Yeah. So it's also reduced by 4. So it'd be 45 to 4. Yeah, so ratios, it's just writing them as taking them and putting one number or the other and then simplifying for those. So. All right.
Can you do number 5?
I hope so. Unit prices. So for this one, you would just go for, let me go, my annotation is getting kind of messy, but I think I'll just go a different color here. So for number 5 here, first you would go for the 3-pack, and you'd say, okay, well, what does that one cost? And I would go dollars per t-shirt. So you take the price and you divide by 3, right? And then that's dollars per shirt. So whatever that comes out to be, 462 divided by 3, what does that come out to be? It's it's $1.54, and that's dollars per shirt. Okay. Then you do the same thing for the 5-pack. Is you take the price and you divide it by the number. What does that come out to be? Yeah, so it ends up being $1.59, and that's dollars per shirt. So which one's the better value? Yeah, the 3-pack is the better value because it has a smaller unit price. So. Okay. If you didn't get it all written down today and you want to review tonight, you can always these solutions. I've shown them to you here, but right at the practice test, I also post solutions. I do still need to go. I forgot. I need to put the solutions to the last 2 up. I haven't posted those yet, but I'll add those later. Any other questions, things you want to go over, or questions about the test in general? I can answer.
Do you have an extra package?
What's that?
Do you have any package?
Of what? The practice test? Oh, I don't print those out. Yeah. I think anybody who has them in here probably just printed them off Canvas. Oh, there you go. But yeah, that one I usually don't print out just because it's usually longer. But you can always find them on Canvas. You can print, if you go over to the tutoring center, you can print for free. I don't know if you guys knew that. But the tutoring center actually allow you to print for free over there if you log onto their computers. You can go print them out on your way out. Anyways, so if you want to stick around and ask any other questions, or if you turned in this thing on Wednesday, you can come grab yours on your way out. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow. There you go, Francisco. Yeah, Francisco. Huh? And Angel. There you go. No problem. Oh, you're in here somewhere. There's Joel. There you go. Let me know if you have any questions. Piper? Where are you?
It's gonna come back and bite me. Thank you.
Saw you a second ago. Beatrice.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Sean. Stephanie. There you go. Charlie. What's that?
I didn't turn mine in.
Oh.
Is that going to affect me? Or
No. It's just like little. The ones I've handed out throughout. I'm just keeping track of them. They're just extra credit, and at
Okay.
the end, I'm just gonna give people a few extra points.
Okay, sounds good.
But yeah, it's all good. Maricela?
Yeah.
Did everybody get theirs back? That turn one in. Justin, Rebecca, perfect. Yeah, what's up, Kenya?
It's probably not going to happen, but like I took my homework quiz yesterday at
Yeah.
work during work,
Uh-huh.
and I got slammed at the front desk.
Okay.
But I was wondering, is there any retakes? I got like a 2 out of 7. Because like my time.
I can give you one. I can give you an extra 10 if you want.